Okay, tifo. Enche pisa meka ya na beto mountain so. Eye Sicilia da package ye beto mountain so. Say any house help for no. Mako ye ni sika pudo bia na ehye dem no. E beto bia. Ana ne bi mpe keka se Sicilia da pa o sika se e woni dem. Na Ghana e da square IMF. Nse me bre na manfo ka. But you are eye Akuoko party. Da beto bia say corruption akasa no. Is it MPP and that's NDC? Why not buy into power? Like corruption akasa. Who is the main source of corruption in Ghana? Say whether it's MPP and that's NDC. When you say we bring it together, as if for my gibe, ni nkuti same kakra. You were a Akuoko kwatin or the etu joni bin.
Non so pa osima adwunum enso. Na so dem di kakatre mo ye ne Abbas Nuruddin. Abbas the Ashanti Regional Communication Officer at the National Democratic Congress, the largest opposition party in Ghana. Almost a government in waiting. I don't pay Abbas by joining. A very honorable Samuel Adaya Jekum, or a Pentecost elder, and I'll sound see a DC El Secretary, Kumawu, and I'll pay Yanin Besinkona, na Yabobo and Semneso. As only because fast post and Abana Yedinko Mobi, but I'm a Pemazan Bisa question. No. Benida da Rollins Asia Sia 92. So that by mu. Omo Ghana yedu omo gina hobo omo tuo prepare womo edi womo wuo because of corruption. Azan yeba ke mami ke bi 1992. Amabena ba Rollins be share 1992 edi yeba be wie 2000. Amabeni ko for be fire free 2000 edi yeba wie 2008. Mills Mahama ebe fire edi kodu 2012. Mahama Misata ebe fire 2013 edi yeba wie 2016. Nana Kufado Baumia, Edia started 2017, Edia Bedu 2023. And I remember me bisa question be. Baby Ghana ti ehia ya deka. Sausha Bank of Ghana, data omodia tuja asset April, is it July, ntibi kura bia beka ho amanim. But as at April 2023, from Bank of Ghana data omode ma ne say, eka Ghana dia no 569.3 billion. Ghana's debt against GDP. What they call dollar is about $49.7 billion. At the Ghana, your Maya Deka. Yanimo Kasa, YMF for Ayapo Mutosa COVID-19, Ukraine Russia war, Amane here, Yahotre, a drama 3 billion, almost $600 million number. But as for mine, this is national conversation. MPP ni, NDC ni, the own party kura. Listen to Kesban because Bezana Pemini Mudin Komobi. A Jinabia, yan fashion, yan consio. Abanye jetwo aban kobo besia na Ghana mpanifo edo o ma show mu sani bi ntrase no omuni ewia na asa ba betra na yese su se Ghana ye ho kire how long and as a country ye betimi atena saade anim enkosi da ben and as a country no ye mpanifo a omutu kwa America omutu kwa Germany omutu kwa Italy omutu kwa France omunnim sani how the institutions are there no esi ye adwuma no. And the Ghana Chrome Yampeni Foi, Ubisa Mabunua. A lot of youth, any that so be our Musa that ye. Because how about yes, we have yes, Caddy, or why yes, Caddy. Now, how come some Minister of State ultimately $1 million? 300,000 euros. And then 3.5 billion, echo go fee. Yes, the driver no, Pamono, no. And I'll offer a new driver. And the new driver no, offer, no. Only girlfriend and over catching so my man boy as aid of you. And he has a damn person. And one within the key now, they call the bedroom honor, or the tosun no muko trebi. Age between 2022 no, Sa April honor corner the yans a mammy quadjuma. No my beers are for no. Near Chinica cra. Near beer, near Chinica cra. Near beer, near Chica cra. Near beer, near Chica. Now the army yan say, but don't tell me a pow. Minister and me and detector say ye really sika. Eko se ni kunu mom e na erezi alarm ne za as o sika na be ira. Eh na ayi tiska na ese pa na 1 million timi ya ma me wadwe amaso. Me dey me biza question no. Me no be any problem. But I'm asking a question as a journalist. Ya best Ghana corded him. The minister what timi diska kwa 2 fee. $1 million yetimi wia. Na for such a period of about 3-4 months no. E ji wonnim krasi ye wia. Sika na ese na defio. How much? Yampani for me no ewo, Mampeni ko fad ne Mampeni Mahama. Obia ba hoso obeboa ne to corruption ase. Yentie Omampani na Nadu Danko Akufo-Addo, President. Oni Yenuanum City FM for Dinkomo. About how his government, the Akufo-Addo we know as Foreign Affairs Minister, as former Attorney General, promised Ghanaians so ba said we share to corruption. But on Facebook, no, Kesben TV, Kesben FM. Let's listen to the president. Utio 92.9, Kesben FM 93.3. Yentie Omampani Akufo-Addo.
Your corruption is endemic. It's become the way we live. People want to know your approach to tackling corruption and your pledge. Are you going to uproot it? Are you going to minimize it? How are you going to deal with corruption?
I think that to some extent, with respect, the way those questions are put in themselves shows the difficulty in dealing with uprooting. And I don't think that any society in the world has uprooted corruption. Okay. What most places have tried to do is to minimize it and reduce its impact on the way that the national economies work. And I think that has to be. But the goal will continue the path that was begun, which is to create the legal framework that will impact on corruption. When I was Attorney General, we passed the Public Procurement Act, the Whistleblowers Act. Several pieces of legislation came into place, if fully enforced, would be very, very significant in the fight against corruption. If it is required that any time there's a public works of a certain size, then it should be won through a tendering process. If you're going to do it through sole sourcing, you've already lost one part of the handle on the fight against corruption. So the law is in place. But whether are you going to implement it or not? Yes. You'll make the clear decision. You're going to implement it. You're going to make the tendering for public works, public businesses, the norm, not the exception. The last 5 years, we've seen the thing turn the other way around, where virtually everything that has been done by the state has been done through a process of sole sourcing. Obviously, immediately, a very important handle in the fight against corruption has been loosened. We are going to restore the tendering process to make sure that unless there are stringent reasons why the procurement process should end up in the sole sourcing, tendering becomes the norm, not the exception. I think you will see from that straight away the impact that it will have on our public finances. We're going to be able to save much more. We're going to get much more value for doing business than what we're getting at the moment, which has brought this atmosphere or reality of widespread corruption in our system. So the laws are in place. Are you going to be able to implement them? I think that one of the things that has come up, which has caused a great deal of discussion, is the position of the Attorney General in the fight against corruption. Most people have now come to the conclusion that an Attorney General in a party system government, a party system of government, may be in a difficult place when it comes to potentially prosecuting fellow ministers. I don't happen to agree with that thinking, because when I was Attorney General, I authorized the prosecution of a fellow minister. But that's another story. But at the moment, public opinion in Ghana is of the view that we need somebody else than the Attorney General to be charged with that responsibility. I believe that if we move to the system whereby we will set up an office of a special prosecutor, someone who's appointed in a way in which it is independent of the executive, give him the prosecutorial authority independently of the executive, and leave him to tackle him or her to tackle issues of corruption, may be yet another important step in the fight against corruption. So there are at the end, okay, public exaltations are very important. personal example, of course, is absolutely critical. I mean, if it is seen that at the top of the system is somebody who is saying no to corruption, who's himself not getting involved in it, actions that may be questionable, obviously that gives a certain inspiration to the system as to what we need to do. But essentially, at the end of the day, is the legal regime that you have in place, are you going to enforce that legal regime?
Okay, and His Excellency the President of the Republic, Nana Dudanko Akufuado. Where you come on Penny and San Obetana Koda, so in summary, no. Abeni wo didie say, yes, no breso, Mrano Bebreba, so, no, na, Mua, Brano, Attorney General, Nomina, the Mrabe, the Guaco, to be president, you know, or Meso, the Bayajuma. Office Bakwa Mampenika say, a Beba Buamia took at a sharing proyase at the Office of the Special Prosecutor, of course. Or can opposition or ban why yet. But what case is our special prosecutor ho? Yet a custom Canada moi. As I know the free office ho, yes, auction cars be a horse and some yente the accosibio. Yaha, and yet is a dra, as call your party campaign, and Rabbi Kochesika, special prosecutor or one or the above investigation. Yaha, Yazama Penida Mahama, Wakoma Forte Ghana, per delegate, special prosecutor, the castle Belgium, and my delegate, the Bocata Publisher, on TV. Yaha, and the betrayal does a Jenny Boati case. On this state, you know, another as a court. Now, the admitted to say, says Kana, or fire, and see a bob, and no Sadi Abreu, so your man in Channel could try a baby. Achimota Forest, Sir John Will, Yahujaho, and near the Padia Jaho, Bemuno, yes, the special prosecutor Belgium. Akosi say yawa just like you know ho aba say no yebeka special prosecutor so obekom but on tin yebekwa akosi yedro man da John Dramani Mahama so the quest to fight corruption e go yebro say say party me no MPP ni NDC no in the next 10-20 years party will be amaya omo na be do o mine so omo aso ni perifere do o mine sika sem sho omo sa yedro man da John Dramani Mahama.
Let's go to corruption. Corruption was a major issue in 2016. In fact, you were lambasted here and there over the issue of corruption. How do you rate the current government's management of corruption issues or the handling of corruption and then its related issues?
I'm sure you know the answer yourself.
You tell me.
Well, abysmal. And it's not like the statistics don't support it. Just look at the corruption transparency index, yeah? And you can tell the performance of any government in corruption. The worst year of our government, NDC, is better than the best year of this government in terms of corruption. You see, the thing, the thing about corruption is, it's not that they won't care. It will come up. I mean, there are people in different places. Everybody has his own moral, makeup. You understand? And so you might put somebody somewhere. He goes and does some wrongdoing and all that. The important thing is to strengthen the institutions so that the institutions work. It's how you deal with corruption when it comes up. Not that it won't happen. It will happen. But how you deal with it as a leader, that is most important. Now, it's obvious that this president has absolutely no will to deal with corruption. He raised a lot of hopes with the issue of the Office of Special Prosecutor. I mean, what has come out of that office in 4 years? One, it is underfunded. Two, the Special Prosecutor's hands have been tied behind his back. And so he's not been able to prosecute anybody. He has no investigators. He has to rely on state institutions to give him investigators. Every year they announce a big budget for him. How much of that budget is released? But in a part, it's also the media. I mean, I said it the other time, the media is giving this government a free ticket when it comes to corruption. Because you set the agenda. In my time, every little issue was like, blown up, sometimes out of proportion. But the thing about...
Corruption is not little or big.
No, I said blown out of proportion, whatever it is. But the thing about my administration was, I believe in regime accountability. And so if the matter will come up. If it comes up, you must find a way of dealing with it, either by investigating it, and our record is clear. I mean, we investigated all the issues the media raised and things. One of our members of parliament is sitting, in prison, because of issues related with corruption. And so there was a will to deal with it. This government has no will to deal with corruption within the regime. The easiest fight against corruption is to deal with your political opponents when you take over. And so if you go and pick 1, 2, 3 people and put them before courts and say you are being strong with corruption, what of those who are engaged in corruption under your own administration?
Why should Ghanaians believe you to fight corruption more than the NPP administration, especially when under you had the Dede issue?
The Dede issue was prosecuted. They were prosecuted, and people were made to refund monies to the state. They were prosecuted. Which other issue?
You've had Zoom Lion.
Zoom Lion was part of the Dede issue.
Yes.
Yes. Attorney General has the docket. Zoom Lion went to court against government in that particular matter. And that's where we left it to this government. They've not pursued it. And the thing is, the wheels of justice grind slowly. The national service issue. We put 31 people before court. We sacked 110 people. That case up till now was handed over to this government. What have they done about it?
How are you going to deal with it when you come to power? How will you deal with this and the many other issues?
We'll let the institutions work. You see that we have a lot of anti-corruption institutions. And aside from that, we have the laws to fight corruption. It is the political will that is lacking. And so you don't interfere in the work of the anti-corruption institutions. Leave them to do their work. And the point is, when I become president, anybody who serves in my government, I'm going to give them a strong warning that if they come into conflict with any issue to do, if they have anything to do with corruption and any of the institutions is investigating them, they can't expect any political interference from me.
Okay, and yeti omampeni na nadu danko kufuatu. Ena yeti omampeni da John Dramani mama. Na anopodenti a mede sa conversation we aba. Mo mo hwe Okesben TV so mo tiwa amodone baabi an se yempani fo na anya sise na ye nya so no ye di konsuo ne dia. IMF ma 10 billion. Sika ne benwuna ko. Ya ni businessmen sika as usual say na bangu omo so GRA good businessmen so omo gu omo so taxes ne ade no ya ni di sika ni nyina nkogu basket nim. Se tokuro na da de no to na nkofo wie sika no aban na nsia no aban bi oso ida MPP NDC a ye betene krom ha esu aban no na bi mfa nyampuntio. Mama je comment